Okay. Well, thank you again for everybody taking the time. I know it's a little bit crazy after the holiday weekend to jump back into it, and you've got 4,000 emails, and now we're asking you to take a time to spend an hour with us. So I appreciate that. So I'm going to turn it over to Andy for any updates on our side, and also Elaine has some updates for youth ministry.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, I just have two updates to share. One with our Eucharistic revival and what we're aiming towards the parish year, which begins Corpus Christi in June. Over the next several weeks, we'll be communicating a lot more about the revival. We've been doing a lot of baby steps and a lot of kind of smaller group preparations, but we'll have a new web pages put together, and it's leaning we're all leading towards this parish year. The big event for the parish year, and I would say probably one of the really the big events for our entire experience of the revival here in Atlanta, is coming up September 9th of this year. Rescue Live with Father John Ricardo and his Acts 29 team. I know we've been promoting it to our PCLs, but we really want as many of you to be able to attend, and as many of your catechists to be able to attend, and the folks you work with, core teams, so our youth ministers as well. It's really an exclusive an event that we're looking at. We're going to be focusing on inviting leaders first, and hopefully we'll fill up. It'll have 1,200 spots, so it's similar size to our catechist conferences in the past, but we're limited at 1,200. We'll be getting registration out there hopefully in the next 3 to 4 weeks or so. So by February, we'll have that out there. And we're just going to be pushing it through our channels here with our PCLs. We want to get it out to clergy as well. We know not all many of the priests will experience Father John during their retreat in September, but there won't be space for all of them. So as many priests, other priests that can attend this event, deacons, but all of our ministry leaders, we're thinking campus ministries as well, or parish ministries, looking at our Catholic school teachers. So just save that date, September 9th. More info coming soon on that. My last item was just with the parish year coming up. We've been informed by the Bishops' Conference at the national level and those who are leading the national efforts that they want a parish point person from every parish to be connected to the revival. Now, many of you may be aware already, we've kind of been doing that already here in Atlanta. We took that step early, but we still don't have all of our parishes connected yet. We have Eucharistic revival missionaries at about half of our parishes thus far, and we've been meeting with them monthly to pray with them, to offer formation and accompaniment, and that's been part of our efforts leading up to the parish year. But we need more connections at more of our parishes. Our thought right now, and I'm open to other thoughts from our leaders in the field, but as we move towards the parish year and try to fulfill this request from the USCCB for the other parishes that don't have a parish point person, or even those that might have Eucharistic revival missionaries, but they're volunteers, the USCCB is really looking for staff from parishes, somebody that would be there that can be connected to what the national team time where there's more small groups happening. People are are being more connected with what's happening in the revival. There's going to be materials developed at the national level to help parishes, but here in Atlanta, we're also really focusing on Rescue Live and on the Rescue Project. For those of you who haven't heard about that yet, we'll do a deeper dive in future calls. But so there's going to be some opportunities to do more small groups during the parish year, but they're really asking for a parish staff person. My thought is that our PCLs are well suited for that, or at least to be folks that you might be able to discern who at the parish would be best for this, always with the permission of your pastor. But we'll be communicating with you in the next several weeks. I just want to flag it for your attention that I'd like to communicate with you first about this parish point person, where we need to fill in the gaps with that, and that if it's okay with your pastor, either yourself or you delegate somebody, but you be the one to delegate, with your pastor's permission, somebody who can be connected with the parish year efforts coming from the national level, and then we would be connected with you as well. So hope that makes sense. I'll stop now, and we can go into depth a little later, but just wanted to flag it for you. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. Elaine, you had some updates for youth ministry, correct?
Yes, I have three quick updates. The first is that the date of Holy Fire is being postponed. So that middle school event that we were advertising for March 4th to take the place of Middle School Catholic Fest. Unfortunately, our producer has not been able to secure an event large enough because this will be a regional event. So it is being postponed. The new date is to be determined. Andy and I will continue to work with them to get that here in the Archdiocese of Atlanta. But I just wanted to let everyone know that that will not be happening, unfortunately, on March 4th. I want to put out a call to the youth ministers and DREs here. If your youth minister is not on the call, if you can be in touch with them. We had a meeting about NCYC, which is the National Catholic Youth Conference that happens every other year. And for the past number of years, it's been happening in Indianapolis. It will happen again this November. It starts on Thursday, November 16th in the evening and goes through Saturday pretty late. So most people leave Sunday the 19th. So it's the 16th through the 19th. And we had just an interest meeting. I had a handful of youth ministers that have expressed some interest. They're putting it out to their teens, but I'm asking for everyone to let me know by March 15th if you will be coming and how many teens you will have. The way that this works is when we put in a request for tickets, the tickets are $280. And that does not include food or transportation or your hotel. So I would estimate that the whole cost of this is going to be somewhere between $700 and $800 per teen. So just to let you know that up front. But when we request tickets, we have to pay the entire ticket price of $280 and it is non-refundable. So I am not buying tickets if I need a commitment from the youth ministers that they are committing to this many tickets. And if anyone has any questions, they can, they can call me and I'll walk them through it. But March 15th is what we're shooting for as our deadline to get the numbers into me. The last thing I just wanted to mention is that Life Teen is holding a Genesis conference, which is basically, it's not only for Life Teen parishes, it is a youth ministry training conference. And this year they are doing it at Hidden Lake, and it has not been here in Georgia before. The evening, let me see, it's March 26th through the 28th, so it starts on a Sunday and it's actually going to start at St. Anne's. You will experience what a life night is at St. Anne's, and then you'll be bussed up to Hidden Lake in Dahlonega. It is $250 if you register by February 15th. It's $350 after that. And thanks to Andrew Knuckles, who had the great idea that if you've been wanting to go to a youth ministry conference, Life Teen does that CYMC in June each year, but it is twice as expensive. So if that is not in your budget, this may be a very doable option for you, and you don't need a flight. You can just drive up there. So you can look on Life Teen's website under events, or again, call me or email me if you have any questions. Okay, that's it.
Thanks, Elaine. And the only
Yeah, we can't hear you, Michelle. I think something just went out.
never hit the thing in your lap without paying attention. Sorry about that. Anyhow, the only thing I want to mention is that if you have not been to a PCL orientation ever, we would invite you to do that on the 24th and RSVP for that. Benny, if you could possibly put that jot form RSVP in the chat, I'd appreciate it. Also, we haven't had a PCL orientation since 2019. So if you're new in your position since 2019, or for whatever reason, I've had one PCL say, I never went to an orientation ever. I'm like, Come on. So we're going to have a day of orientation on the 24th. So please RSVP to that no later than Thursday of this week so we can make sure we have food arranged and tables and all that stuff. Thank you, Benny. There is the jot form. So that being said, I'm now going to introduce you to Amanda Haley, who is going to talk to you about the Seven Sisters initiative, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Amanda, and thank you for coming on board.
Okay, can y'all hear me? Okay, good. I'm having to thank you, Benny, for getting my computer up. My normal work computer, unfortunately, does not allow me to get onto Teams. It's old and I have to use my Mac. So this all happened at the last few minutes. So anyway, thank you. Good morning to everybody. As Michelle said, my name is Amanda Haley, and I work in the Office of Ongoing Formation of Priests, and our office is responsible for planning all the events for priests for their continuing formation in the areas of human formation, spiritual, pastoral, and intellectual. So we plan the retreat and the convocation, and we've also been pleased to be able to partner with the Office of Evangelization and Formation for bringing speakers down. We brought Sherry Waddell down last year together, and we're also doing Father John Ricardo as a partnership too, where he just would be talking to priests and also everyone else. So we're thrilled to be able to do this. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the Seven Sisters Apostolate. It is actually a ministry that there are a couple chapters here in the Archdiocese of Atlanta, but a while back, Bishop Ned asked me, he's actually my boss, and he asked me to help start the apostolate here, or get it to be, I guess, expand it. His sister, Kathleen O'Hearn, is one of the founders of the apostolate, and their ministry, it's a prayer ministry for priests whose mission is a call to strengthen the church by ensuring that a holy hour is prayed each day for the sole intention of a specific priest or bishop. It's called a holy wasting, or a lavishing of prayer for the priest's deeper conformity to Christ. So anyway, that's their mission. And basically the structure is that there are 7 women, 1 priest, 1 holy hour, and it's a 1 day a week commitment. And as I mentioned earlier, the prayer is for the sole intention of the priest, and it's done in a church. It does not, or any place that they're having a holy hour, it does not have to be done in adoration. But I'm specifically tasked with building prayer teams for the priests that work in the Archdiocese of Atlanta Chancery building. That means the 4 bishops, and then we have 3 or 4 other priests. I'm currently soliciting and trying to get people to join the teams. One of our bishops the newest bishop, Bishop Tran, does not have a team, or even a first person on his team, but the other bishops all have a few people. So we're trying to round out the team. So if anybody is interested, or you'll know of anybody that's interested in praying for the bishops or the priests here in the Archdiocese Chancery building, I would love to talk to you. I'm coordinating all of that. And then we are also trying to get teams for all of our pastors and parochial vicars. And in that area, I would just turn that person over to the Seven Sisters Apostolate website, which we can send out to all of you, and it tells how to form a team. There is a person called an anchoress, and she recruits 7 women or 6 other women, and each woman takes 1 day of the week so that the priest or the parochial vicar or pastor or parochial vicar is covered every day of the week for 1 hour. So it's a powerful prayer ministry. Kathleen O'Hearn, Bishop Ned's sister, says she's been involved with it for, I guess, 5 or 6 years. I don't know exactly the amount of time she's been involved, but it's been multiple years, and she says she's just seen incredible growth from all the priests that she has been able to pray for. and she is going to come down at some point and speak to us, or we're hoping to get her down here so that everybody that's involved in this ministry or want to be involved in this ministry can speak to her. But the greatest thing about this ministry is there are no meetings, there's no paperwork, there's nothing. It's just prayer. It's just your commitment to pray for a bishop or a priest one day of the week, and you can do it any day, any time during that day, for an entire year. And so you can also discuss it with your priest or parish minister, or you can email them and let them know you're praying for them. Some priests prefer to just people have pray general prayers for them, and some priests, Kathleen tells me that they actually get very involved and they know who's praying for them each day, and they will email and say, I have a very important meeting this Tuesday, please pray for me. And so it's just kind of the style of the priest. But anyway, she said it's an incredible ministry to be involved in. I'm actually involved in praying for Bishop Ned. I'm his anchoress, so I'll be getting all the other people to pray for him since he's my boss. But we all, and in addition, if you don't have, if you are a man and you want to do something, we have the Fasting Brothers. And that is a group of 6 brothers who fast one day a week for the sole intention of the priest or bishop that they're fasting for. That is, they commit for a year as well. And so they don't have to fast from food. They could actually fast from other things that they would like. So it's just fasting for the intentions of the priest. So, and we work with them in conjunction with the 7 sisters. The one thing I will say is we don't have as many of the Fasting Brothers group, so we're considering just putting one of those groups together for the bishops and priests that are here. And I've got to make sure that that's I have permission to do that. But and then if you are in a parish, you can pray for a priest that's in another parish. You can pray for a priest that is in the chancery. You do not have to be in the parish that you're praying for the priest. If you were unable to make your commitment, you can have your husband, a male co-worker, or anybody else fill in for you. So it's very flexible as well. Anyway, if anybody has wants any additional information, they can reach me at ahaley@archatl.com, and Haley is spelled Hailey. Or Michelle can give anybody my email address and my cell phone number, and I can send you the link. It's for their ministry at 7sistersapostolate.org, but I can send you all that in an email if you're interested. And we'd love to have you join us. I need people on Bishop Ned's team, Bishop Conzen's team. I need 7 people for Bishop Tran, and I need a couple more for Bishop Ned. So anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Amanda, thank you. That's such a beautiful ministry, and it's so obvious and it's so needed. So I hope people will respond to Amanda. I have put her name in her email contact in the chat, or you can send me an email and I'll make sure you get a hold of Amanda. There was a question, and prayer does not need to be done on site at the chancery for this. It
Yeah.
can be in any church. We ask for it to be in church, to do a holy hour for the priest or bishop that you're praying for. But if you have any more questions, we can get you with Amanda or get you with the 7 Sisters Apostolate. So that's awesome.
Well, I do have one thing to add. There is one exception to praying in a church. If somebody is homebound, this is a very good ministry for them because they can lift up their suffering, and that is allowed for them to pray at home. They do like for people to be in front of the Blessed Sacrament otherwise, but so if there are people in your parishes that are unable to get to church, it is a wonderful ministry for them to be a part of.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The next up is going to be Jenny Miles. And Jenny, I think you're going to be sharing screen with us. There you go. And Jenny's going to be talking to us with some information and updated trends in the Archdiocese that she has. So take a listen.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Perfect.
We sure can.
I apologize. I don't have my video up. I found out this morning my webcam laptop is not working. So but it is what it is. So we'll just go ahead with the presentation. My name is Jenny Miles. I am the manager of planning and research. And any questions you have, I'm fine if you guys want to ask along the way, or we can wait until the end, whatever works best. And there is, we're going to talk a little bit about priest personnel. So that information is confidential. It's not going to go out of this meeting. And in fact, the recording is not going to include that information as well, but it's just for your knowledge. All right. Okay, so here is a picture of our Archdiocese. I think you guys know it's the northern 69 counties in Georgia. We have about 7.7 million people living in our diocese, and about 1.2 million of those are Catholic, we think. Those blue counties are our 20 metro counties that hold 80% of our population, the total population and the Catholic population. The 49 rural counties is closer to 20%. All right, moving to looking at just our Catholics in the Archdiocese. So when we look at estimated Catholic population, that's that orange line in the chart on the left, that we estimate Catholics based on racial and ethnic diversity. So we haven't changed those formulas too much since 2000. So just keep that in mind. So as the population grows, our Catholic population is growing as well. But our Catholic population is growing faster than the total population, which is in that blue line behind the orange. So you can see the steeper curve of the Catholic population. And there's two different axes. So the blue, you can see goes up to 7.7, and the orange on the right side goes up to almost 1.2 in 2020. Some other ways to look at this information. The green table shows the Catholic population as a percent of the total population in 2000, 2010, and 2020. So in 2000, we think we were about 12% Catholic versus 2020, where we think we're closer to 15% Catholic in the Archdiocese. And then when you look at the decade growth, you can see how between 2000 and 2010, we grew about double the total population. And between 2010 and 2020, we grew about 1.5 times the total population. And that 2000 to 2010 for the whole country, we had unprecedented growth, which is why we think we had almost 50% growth in that decade for the Catholic population. Another statistic that we look at are live births in the Archdiocese versus the number of infant baptisms. So the infant baptisms are in that orange line, and the blue are the total live births in the Archdiocese. So you can see that both births and baptisms are declining, but the baptisms are declining at a faster rate than the births. And this shows that we know Catholic population is growing, but it's because of immigration and migration, and not necessarily because of people having babies and baptizing them Catholic. This is looking at that same statistics, but as a ratio. So baptisms divided by the total births. So you can see the percentage of baptisms to birth is going down, and it's been below 9.6% since 2013, which is our overall average for about 20 years. This is another concerning trend. When you look at Hispanics in America, the Hispanics are declining in terms of Catholic population. So this green line on the left, you can see in 2006, almost 70% of Hispanic adults would identify as Catholic, versus 2021, it's declined 20% to under 50% Catholic. And so the orange line, that's Protestant. So you can see the Protestants have gained about 4% of Hispanic adults, and that gray line shooting up from 10% to 26%, that's nuns. So 16% of those Hispanic Catholics have been lost to no religion at all. This is So when you look at then the total number of Hispanic Catholics in the United States, when you apply that percentages to the number of Catholics, the actual number of Hispanic Catholics in the US is declining. That's what we think is happening. Now, this could be mitigated by the fact that the census probably has an undercount of Hispanics, because that's looking at census numbers. We don't know if surveys, if the General Social Survey, I don't know if it's in Spanish. And I don't know how likely undocumented immigrants would be willing to participate in either a survey or the census. So going back to that original estimated Catholic chart that we have where we're showing growth, assuming that those percentages are staying similar, and using past growth rates and applying them to 2040, the highest, that 2000 to 2010 growth, I'm kind of discounting that, but you can see how high that line goes, like 2.5 million Catholics. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that was unprecedented. I think it's much more likely by 2040 that we're going to have between 1.4 and 1.7 million Catholics. Right, and then moving to just looking at our Catholic diversity. What does our Catholic Church look like based on our estimates? Here is our estimates over time. The top bar is 2000, where we think we had 55 or 56% non-Hispanic white versus about 30% Hispanic. Then by 2010, we had a huge diversification, a huge growth in all the other race and ethnicities. So we were majority minority, only 45% non-Hispanic white. And then between 2010 and 2020, we haven't had much of a change in terms of how we think the church looks and who is here in our archdiocese. It's important to note the difference between our rural counties and our metro counties. As you would suspect, our metro counties are much more diverse than those rural counties. And to remember, 80% of our population is in those metro counties. So we have, on average, a significant amount more Hispanic Catholics and non-Hispanic Catholics in our metro counties. Our rural counties are heavily non-Hispanic white. And then this is not exactly the same. This is looking at our mass counts by language. So since 2015, I hope you guys are aware, we have been asking for mass counts from every parish. We have not been getting full compliance, but in 2021, our priest council chair called the parishes that hadn't participated. So we got 95 parishes and missions participating out of about 107. And so we can see that of everyone who attended Mass at those 95 parishes, of everyone who attended Mass on an average Sunday weekend in October, 55% of them were attending Mass in English, and 36% were attending Mass in Spanish. But then when you look at the number of Masses offered, 65% of our Masses every Sunday for the Saturday Vigil and Sunday morning Masses are offered in English versus 27% offered in Spanish. And then to look at this in another way, you can see the average attendance by language. So in an English Sunday Mass, you have on average like 190 attendees. In Spanish, you have an average of 300. And in Vietnamese, you have an average of 425. But we do only have 2 Vietnamese churches, and I think only one other church that offers Mass in Vietnamese. And finally, we are looking at what is the impact of the pandemic on our Catholic Church. I have some newer numbers that came in like in December, so I don't have those analyzed yet. So this is using as of the fall of 2022. So just keep that in mind. When you look at our sacraments in the Archdiocese, we have 2019 versus 2021 sacraments. Every sacrament except for deaths is still below 2019 levels, meaning we haven't caught up. The good news is most of those, if you look at the 2020 versus 2021, most of the sacraments have started going back up. meaning they kind of bottomed out in 2020 during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic, and went and started returning, except for minor baptisms, the 7 to 17 baptisms, receptions into full communion, those are still heading down, and our elementary PSR. I'm thinking you guys probably have seen this in your parishes. Those on a whole are still declining. There we go. So, and then another thing to look at is our mass attendance. This is in person only. I haven't really considered virtual. Some people can count their virtual attendance and others cannot. But if you look at 2019 mass counts, okay, and then before I get started on that, that number in bold below the chart on the left, that's the number of parishes that participated. So these numbers are not perfect, but it's what we have. So we can see our average. So this would be every mass at a parish on the weekend, the total number of attendees. In 2020, we had about 1/3 the number in-person mass as we had in 2019. Again, no surprises. These are October of 2020, height of the pandemic. But after we had opened the churches, by 2021, we were only up to about 60% of 2019 data. And I did do a random sampling of our 2022 this past fall. Those of the random sampling I looked at, on average, we were about 80% of 2019 attendance. I think one church had met or surpassed their 2019. But on average, 80%. This definitely mirrors our national adults. When you looked in July of 2020, about 30% of Americans were back attending their religious services in person. And in September of 2021, up to about 60. So we are mirroring those national averages. All right, and then this is new. Andy hasn't seen it yet. So who have we lost in the pandemic? If you look at, so this is a brand new report. It came out in the beginning of January, looking at just some statistics or some qualifications and who's back at church and who's not. So of all Americans, we have gone from 25% never attending church prior to the pandemic, and it's increased by 8% to 33% of Americans never attend a religious service after the pandemic. And so this is this past April. Any group listed above Americans has less people attending religious service, and any group below have more than that average attending religious services. And the top three have also had the largest loss. It's a gain. You can see how it is a gain, but it's the loss in people attending church. People who identify as liberal, we've lost an additional 15%. People who have never married, we have lost an additional 14% after the pandemic. And our age 18 to 29, we have lost an additional 13%. So these are pretty stark information, but it gives us a sense of who we're losing. And then just finally, the same report, they posit that we really, even though you have less people going to church, they're saying they're not seeing a big difference in how people identify. So they're still identifying as the same religion, even though maybe they're not going to services so often. But if you'll see, so they have divided white Catholics and Hispanic Catholics as different statistics. So white Catholics have 10% of American adults identify as white Catholic, and they did before the pandemic and after. But American adults who identify as Hispanic and Catholic have gone down by a percentage from before the pandemic to after the pandemic. So that's about 4 years. They did this in like 2018 to 20 versus 2022. So that is also reinforcing that decline of Hispanic Catholics that we're seeing overall before the pandemic. So that is all the information I have. I would like to open this up to any questions you guys might have, because that was a lot.
Jenny, I just want to say thank you for presenting this data. Jenny presented this to our senior staff a couple of months ago, and we wanted to find an opportunity to get before PCLs. It's important for us to know the data, and to be smarter about it too. Some of these things we can't control, but they can also inform our ministries and the way we're strategizing. So I appreciate it, Jenny.
I know somebody had raised their hand sometime within the presentation. If you want to open up your mic or put it in the chat, if you had a specific question for Jenny. There's a lot to digest here, Jenny, as you know. So. And
I know
Jenny is,
something.
oh, go ahead.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
go
Andy,
ahead.
go
Or
ahead.
Michelle, I was just going to say, something that struck me was the data point about PSR, and some of the data there. And I'd like to, I just want to let everybody know our office would like to dig into that a little more deeply. I know a lot of our data is unreliable with regards to some of the, what we're doing faith formation wise. There's been more family faith formation, and the directory right now is not aligned to getting that data. It's kind of a grade level age based, but I'd like to find ways where we can dig into that more. Jenny, I don't know if you have anything further to say there on that decline, when we look at the PSR data, faith formation data.
Right. So the 2022 edition was collected in December. So I have not added all those numbers up to see if there is still a decline. One question people had was, why has the high school PSR not declined as significantly as the elementary? And what we think is that because high school PSR is usually sacrament based, it's much more comparable to look at first communions and confirmations that are still down by about 16%. So high school down by about 18%. So that's why we think those are in line. The elementary PSR, I just can speak from personal experience. I think after virtual, a lot of kids hate PSR. So that's my children. They do not want to, even though it's in person now, that experience was so awful. So for them, yeah.
Thanks. And Jenny, we do have Linda McKnight has posted a chat, any cause/solution relationship to these numbers. And do we have currently any suggestions for doing better?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd leave that up. I mean, I would like to open that up to general discussion if people have ideas. I'm a numbers girl, so if you guys have ideas to contribute.
Yeah, does anybody have any thoughts? Because I mean, we know the directory for catechesis is calling for a revival, a renewal of catechesis. And one of the things we've been focusing on in this archdiocese is how do we engage our families? So the emphasis on family catechesis, family evangelization. We're still at the beginning stages of this. I think some of us it's coming off of COVID. It's coming during a time where numbers kind of went just haywire, but also dealing with a lot of newness and creativity. We're seeing fruit being born from that, but it's like we need more time to also kind of dig into that. There's a bigger element in here as well. So family breakdown and the overall kind of decline of sacraments is just a decline of families connecting to the church generally. This is bigger than the renewal of catechesis, right? This is about the mission of evangelization, the mission of parish renewal, the mission of domestic church renewal. But we're all part of that. So there's more that we need to dig into. Other thoughts?
Lynn Langston, you had something you'd like to say?
Yeah, I'm Lynn from St. Joe's in Athens. Our numbers are starting to come up already. And I found the biggest thing is when we go out and we see families and we just invite them and we get the priest to mention it from the altar, and it seems to be working for us. We're not up to pre-pandemic numbers, but we definitely are growing each year since.
That's good news, Lynn. Thank you for sharing that. And Jillian from Our Lady of La Salette, will the 2022 stats reflect those who are enrolled in a family formation program?
That's no. The official Catholic directory is who collects this information. So that is something that maybe we could do separately. I think you guys have in the past have sent out surveys, I think at times for me, because the official Catholic directory has gotten better about asking for the PSR data in a place where parishes know to respond. Because maybe if everyone would turn in their statistics, that's an analysis I could easily do. If we do family, faith, PSR, because I think that actually might be better. It might be more accurate if we do it that way. If you guys look again, we could certainly do that kind of study. And I had another thought. One thing we talked about in the Secretariat was how our offertory is back or better than it was in 2019 for parishes. So what we think is that we're losing the people that were already minimally connected. So even the minimally connected would still get their kids in the sacraments, would still try to do PSR. And I think we're just losing those less connected families at a faster rate.
We'll be in touch about data, Jenny,
Right.
and how we can work together.
And Linda McKnight had posted, there seems to be a huge gap between students and parents and what they understand of the catechesis they have received. And I think that's true, that I think parents are facing what they don't know, possibly, that are involved, and they realize that they've got a lot possibly still to learn if they're operating from a point of catechesis from themselves, from maybe at best 10th grade, at worst second, and that they themselves have not put in some of that work because of their lives being so crazy and so busy as parents, and the importance of them leading as families, leading as in their family who leads. And it's a difficult thing, but the whole point is that we're working with them together. We're not just throwing them to the wolves. We're there to walk with them and accompany them so that they don't feel like they're literally being thrown into the deep end without any help. So some other things of Maggie Rousseau wants to say thank you, that it's important to know. Yes. And then Linda says we've started a ministry to try and bridge the gap, which is awesome. Linda, if you have any more information about that, send that to me in an email if you would. I'm not sure if your mic is working or not, but that's good to know, and to know what the results are.
It's working.
That's great. So we can talk a little bit further about that, Linda, and I can share it with the group the next time, possibly, unless you want to share it right now.
Well, it's just getting off the ground. What we did was we have a young mom who is really interested in this, and I'm working with adults, but she is kind of bridging the gap. So like I have a talk coming up with regard to parents whose children are going to make their first confession. And so she's putting together helps for parents to encourage their kids, just as an example, to encourage their kids with regard to confession. And I'm working on the part of the parents who, learned about confession decades ago and are, kind of tentative, in terms of what they know to tell their kids about. And we're trying to put both of these things together. So that's our first thing right now. But there will be more of that. We're taking baby steps to try and bridge that gap. So that's just what's going on right now.
That's a great first step, Linda. I think that's brilliant, because it's not going to heal itself overnight. We know that. We built this monster. Now we need to work our way through it as best we can. So, there's also a comment. Will these stats will they be available to our parishioners at any point in time, Jenny? And she says, I think it would be eye-opening for them to see the numbers.
I am not sure. I just have to take that to the leadership team, see what we think this is. Like the official Catholic directory data, that is public. It just usually you have to look in the book and collate it. And I would also recommend, and I'd be happy to help you guys, individual parish reports or information. If you guys are interested in looking at your parish and showing this kind of data and this kind of analysis, I'd be happy to work with you guys on stuff at your parish. I think that would probably be very effective as well.
Oh, I agree. Thank you, Jenny, for that. And again, I have Jenny's email posted, but if you don't see that in the chat, please send me an email and I will get you in contact with Jenny. And that's very generous of you, Jenny. I think that might be very eye-opening on a parish by parish basis. So,
Yeah, and just as a note, my data isn't always the most accurate. So when you get my information, look at it, see if it resonates, because sometimes people use Periscope differently, so like, yeah. So anyways, just that's the caveat. So you guys would need to look and verify as well.
well, that's, yeah, that makes sense to bump it up against their own knowledge of what their parish is doing and how it feels. So, well, thank you for that, folks. We are coming up on our 1 hour of time. Is there anything else anybody else wanted to share outside of what we've been talking about, or something that's going on in your parish? I'm going to be sending out a Google Doc soon about VBS because we're getting all those questions. I want to know what you did last year. Are you willing to share? Do you have anything that other people can have? We've got some parishes that are going to be doing VBS for the first time in a very long time. And Lynn is offered to be a mentor to one of those. So thank you for that, Lynn. But if anything else is on the, we're open now. Open up the table to anything you may want to talk about.
Michelle, I have one last comment if I could make one.
Certainly, Amanda.
Just coming from the Office of Ongoing Formation and eyes on this, on our priest and everything, just getting back with what Jenny presented, I wanted to just, let you know there's two things that I'm seeing. Number one, obviously we need more priests, and the priests that we do have really need our prayers. One of our statistics is we find, and this is overall throughout the United States, is priests are most likely to leave the priesthood in 0 to 5 years. So our new priests need prayers. And we have a program here to counteract that. It's called the Early Ministry Program, where they have mentorship and then they meet with Bishop Ned 3 times a year. And then they also go to a conference all together so that they can still experience fellowship and brotherhood. It's very difficult when they go from a schooling type experience and they're with their fellow brothers to ministering as a priest, and there's maybe just another one of them, and they get lonely and all those things. So I would just encourage everyone to think about this prayer ministry, the Seven Sisters in their parishes, and try to get some that support both the priest, the pastor, and parochial vicar. And then the other thing that it struck me too, listening to all of y'all, is I know that the lay ministry, it has there's so much that we're doing, but as we decline in the number of priests and increase in the number of people who are churchgoers, or in our archdiocese, it is really important that we as lay ministers take as much off the plate as the priests that can. The priests are the only ones that can administer sacraments, and eventually that's if the trend continues, that's what they'll have to do, because we can do the other things. So number one, I'm really grateful for what your office does and all the education and support that you give everyone in that area. But number two, we do have to encourage and exhort people to step up into ministry roles, to take the burden off of our priests. So anyway, thanks again for letting me be here. I appreciate it.
And thank you, Amanda. And Jenny, is there anything else you want to add before we close out in prayer? Hearing nothing. I want to thank everybody for your time. Our next PCL call is February. Hang on. Let me look. February, Valentine's Day. Okay. Valentine's Day is our next PCL call, and we can talk about things going into Lent, what you guys are doing for that, things about VBS, anything else in the meantime that we can help you with as an office in evangelization and discipleship. This is what we are here for, folks. We're here to support you. We're here to pray with you. We're here to hear your glory stories or your frustrations. So please make sure if you need a shoulder to laugh with, cry with, we're here for you. So I want to thank you again for your time. And Andy, would you mind closing us in prayer?
Happy to. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father, we thank you for this time together. Bless our days. Help us be faithful and obedient to your will and to your inspirations. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Amanda. Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate it.